The story begins with a man named Will who arrives in Spain with his family for a long-awaited vacation. He's genuinely excited about finally spending time together. His father, Martin, greets him warmly, and the two head out toward the villa. On the way, Will's phone rings. It's a work call. Calmly, he asks for a short break, knowing his job calls often irritate his father. When they reach the house, his mom, Lori, his younger brother, Josh, and Josh's girlfriend, Dara, welcome him with big smiles. The whole family is happy, looking forward to a special dinner together. As soon as they sit at the table, Will and Josh start reminiscing about their childhood, how they had to move constantly because of their father's job. Lori is overwhelmed with joy seeing her family reunited, and they kick off the evening with wine. The mood gets even lighter when Josh brings up a funny story from Will's past, making everyone laugh. But the happy moment suddenly comes to a halt when Will receives a troubling phone call. Seriousness washes over Will's face, and everyone around him feels the shift. He finally tells his family the truth: his company has gone bankrupt. The table falls silent. The joy from earlier disappears, replaced by a heavy, uneasy mood. Needing space, Will walks alone to the beach. When he returns, he tries to fix the damage. He goes to his father, Martin, and apologizes for letting the situation ruin the evening. Martin, seeing how hard this is on his son, apologizes too. For a moment, they understand each other. The next day, the family heads out on a boat trip, but Will can't stop checking his phone. Even while helping with the steering, his mind is somewhere else. The tension slowly builds until he brings the boat to a stop. Suddenly, Martin urgently tells him to take control. At that exact moment, a speeding motorboat comes dangerously close. Distracted by his phone, Will doesn't realize the risk. Their boat starts drifting off course in the strong wind. Martin panics and shouts, but Will reacts just in time, avoiding a serious accident that could have hurt Dara. In the middle of the chaos, Will's phone rings again. This time, Martin doesn't hesitate. He grabs Will's phone and throws it straight into the ocean. The tension explodes. They argue loudly, emotions boiling over. Furious, Will makes a sudden decision. He dives into the water and swims to shore, trying to clear his head. Once there, he stops at a pharmacy to buy antiseptic for Dara's cut, then grabs a drink to calm down. Standing on the beach, staring at the endless ocean, he tries to breathe. Out on the water, Martin feels uneasy. The same high-speed motorboat passes by again, raising his suspicion. A little later, Will heads back to the beach, but his family is nowhere in sight. Panic sets in. He asks people nearby for help, but they speak rapid Spanish, and he can't understand a word. Refusing to give up, he approaches a group of young guys standing in the waves, but their voices are drowned out by the crashing surf. Fear creeps in. Did his family leave without him? He walks along the coast for a better view, and in the faint moonlight, he spots their yacht drifting alone in the water. When he climbs aboard, his heart sinks. The boat has no power, and his family is gone. Desperate, Will rushes to the local police station. Inside, the officers are busy playing cards, barely paying attention to him. Their indifference only fuels his anger. Eventually, Will manages to speak to the station captain. The moment the captain hears his name, he makes a quick phone call, and suddenly, he looks concerned. He tells Will to show them exactly where the boat was last seen. In the middle of the night, Will and a few officers head out to search for it, but instead of answers, they run into a stranger who claims he knows Will and can help find his family. Something feels off. Will panics and tries to run. The officers stop him, and a struggle breaks out. In the chaos, Will manages to break free. He jumps into a police car and speeds off into the darkness, with sirens blaring behind him. The chase doesn't last long. The officers corner him and the stolen car crashes. They drag him out and start beating him. Just when it seems like there's no way out, Martin shows up. Out of nowhere, he takes down the attackers and saves his son. Shaken but alive, Will leans on his father for support. He's terrified, confused, but grateful. His first question comes out instantly. Where's Mom? Where's Josh? Martin doesn't have an answer. With a heavy heart, he finally tells Will the truth. He's a CIA agent. He believes someone from his past has resurfaced, and now his family is paying the price. He keeps apologizing, more serious each time, promising he'll bring everyone back safely. Then his phone vibrates. It's a quiet message from his secret CIA contact asking for a discreet meeting. Martin shares very little. Instead, he takes Will to a safe house, a place meant to keep them hidden from whatever is coming. As time passes, Martin asks Will to drive him to a meeting point where their team leader, Karak, is waiting. What they don't know is that a sniper is already in position, silently preparing his rifle. When they arrive, Martin tells Will to stay in this car. Before stepping out, he pauses and opens up. He tells his son how proud he is of the man he's become. Then, Martin walks over to Karak, but doubt lingers in his mind. Is Karak somehow involved? The truth comes out. Martin explains that the people they took the briefcase from have kidnapped his family. They've given him 24 hours to return it, or his wife and sons will suffer. Karak delivers worse news. The briefcase is missing. Now Martin is left with no clear path and time is running out. As Martin walks back to the car, a sniper fires. The shot drops him instantly. Will freezes. Then he breaks. Shocked and shattered, he crawls to his father's side, tears streaming down his face. Sniper Gorman sees another opportunity and aims at Will, but Will reacts just in time. He grabs Martin's gun and his damaged cell phone and runs before the Gorman can close in. While escaping, he crashes into a police officer. The officer sees the weapon in Will's hand and immediately points his gun at him, ready to arrest him. Before things escalate, the Gorman's men open fire, killing the officers. Will fires back at the Gorman, but more police units rush in. Chaos erupts again. Will runs. Pushing himself to the limit, he reaches a tall railing and throws himself over it, landing hard in a nearby park. As he sprints through narrow paths, a mountain mounted police officer spots him and gives chase. Somehow, Will manages to outrun the horse and narrowly escapes. He finally finds a moment to breathe inside a public restroom. Shaken and exhausted, he tries to process everything that just happened. After calming himself, Will steps back onto the crowded streets. To hide his identity, he grabs a cap and sunglasses. Realizing he can't keep carrying the gun, he makes a bold move. He deliberately gets himself arrested at the U.S. Embassy. Inside the embassy, Will tells an official about his father's brutal death and the danger hanging over his family. The officer doesn't believe him and simply suggests hiring a lawyer. In the middle of their conversation, the officer gets a phone call. It clearly sounds related to Will. Frustrated and alone, Will walks out. Outside, he spots Karik waiting in her car. She says she was Martin's friend and knows a lot about Will, even if he's young. Will hesitates, but she promises to help rescue his family, so he gets in. As they drive, Karik starts asking pointed questions about Martin's contacts and the mysterious briefcase. That's when Will's instincts kick in. Something feels wrong. He pretends to feel sick, then suddenly jumps out of the moving car and disappears into the crowded streets. He boards a bus to get farther away. Martin's phone is still with him, and it won't stop ringing. This time, he answers. His heart sinks when he hears his mother's voice. She's desperate to speak to Martin. Through tears, Will tells her the truth: his father is gone. She breaks down, but the man on the other end doesn't care about their pain. He only wants the briefcase. Determined, Will contacts his father's old friend Diego and plans to meet Diego's niece, Lucia, at his office. When he arrives, he keeps his gun ready before meeting her. Lucia seems nervous. Suddenly, Carrick's agents storm in. Without hesitation, Lucia grabs a knife and attacks them. That gives Will the opening he needs. He jumps into the fight, taking on the attackers. In the middle of the chaos, one of the enemies gets stabbed in the back, but he still keeps coming at Will. The fight drags on until Will is completely drained and collapses. Panicked and furious, Lucia points a gun at Will, thinking he might be a threat to Diego. Quickly, Will explains everything: the kidnapping, his father's death, the briefcase, and asks for her help finding Diego. Reluctantly, she agrees. They head to Diego's apartment. The front gate is already open. Sensing trouble, Will pulls out his gun and carefully steps inside. His worst fear becomes real. Diego's body is lying on the floor. Lucia starts to break down, but Will holds her, trying to keep her quiet before things spiral further. Then he hears a faint noise from the kitchen. When he checks, he's stunned. Standing there are Carrick and Gorman. Anger takes over. Will raises his gun and demands answers about his father's death. Calm and cold, Carrick admits that Martin was planning to return the briefcase to their enemies. That made him a liability. Removing him was necessary. Then she makes Will an offer she'll help him find his family, but only if he tells her everything Martin knew about the briefcase and his remaining contacts. Before Will can respond, Lucia bursts into the room and opens fire without warning. A brutal gunfight erupts. Will and Lucia scramble for cover and run, bullets flying around them, while Carrick and Gorman chase close behind. They make it to the rooftop only to realize there's no way down. Thinking fast, Will comes up with a plan. He ties a rope around Lucia and starts lowering her over the edge. That's when the Gorman shoots Will in the shoulder. Through the pain, Will keeps holding the rope. Below, a stranger helps Lucia reach safety. Bullets fly past as Will finally loses his grip and drops hard to the ground, but he survives. Lucia races in on her bike, and the two escape again. Will is fading fast, but stopping isn't an option. Behind them, Carrick continues the chase. She rams Lucia's bike, sending them crashing. Just as she's about to shoot Will, a sudden crowd gathers, blocking her shot. The chaos gives Will and Lucia another narrow escape. Lucia takes him to a nightclub and asks a friend with medical skills for help. At first, he refuses, but after her desperate pleas, he agrees and calls others to assist. They examine the wound. There's no bullet inside, but the bleeding is severe. To stop it, they're forced to take drastic action. The pain knocks Will unconscious. Hours later, he wakes up weak and still in agony. Lucia is checking his phone when she sees a photo of Martin. She freezes after Will confirms his father is dead. Then she reveals something shocking. She knew Martin too, but by a different name, Tom. And he wasn't just Will's father. He was Lucia's father as well, Will's half-brother. The two take a train to the location where the briefcase exchange is supposed to happen. Will is still trying to process the truth that his father had a secret life. He decides to go alone. He explains everything to Lucia and she understands. She agrees to wait at a nearby nightclub, ready to help if things go wrong. They say goodbye, and Will heads out. At the meeting spot, he carefully scans the area. Suddenly, a calm-looking man steps beside him and quietly tells him to act normal and follow. Staying alert, Will does exactly that. The man leads him to a car, and Will gets into the front seat. Desperate for answers about his family, Will starts asking questions. The man responds with sudden violence, grabbing Will by the throat and choking him until he blacks out. When Will wakes up, he's tied to a chair, being punched over and over. He insists that Martin is dead, trying to convince them he has nothing left to give. Then, everything changes. The group's leader walks in, revealed to be an undercover CIA agent. The truth finally comes out. The mysterious briefcase was part of a larger operation designed to expose a corrupt CIA official. Martin and the CIA had staged the exchange to flush out the mole. But the mission went sideways. Martin wasn't the villain, he was caught in a deeper conspiracy. Carrick wasn't trying to protect secrets. She was trying to erase them and eliminate anyone who could expose her. Then Zahar drops another brutal truth: Will's family is still alive, but they're being being held hostage. Their survival depends on how this plays out. Zahir is ready to confront Carrick and rescue them, but he gives Will an ultimatum. Before the secret briefcase exchange happens, Will must draw Carrick out into the open. If he fails, Zahir will hand his family over to the CIA. Once again, he's choked unconscious and dumped outside the city with a gun beside him. He makes his way back to Lucia's nightclub. When they see each other, there's clear relief. They quickly start planning how to lure Carrick out. As they quietly discuss their strategy, the club owner loyal to Diego overhears them and offers to help. Lucia comes up with a smart move. She pays for drinks using her card, intentionally leaving a digital trail, hoping Carrick will track it and walk into their trap. Minutes later, Gorman shows up at the club. The sharp-eyed owner and his friends recognize him instantly. A brutal fight breaks out. Gorman is highly trained, but they eventually take him down using a taser. They drag him into the basement and begin a harsh interrogation. Will demands answers. Where is the briefcase? When is the exchange? Gorman refuses to talk. Enraged, Will beats him and orders the others to rough him up even more. But this is part of the plan. They want Gorman to believe he's managed to escape, so he'll lead them straight to Carrick. Lucia waits in the car while Gorman manages to break free and make a run for it. He steals another vehicle and speeds off. Right behind him, Will starts the chase. After a while, Gorman turns into a narrow alley where he meets Carrick. The two quickly drive off together, unaware that Will is still tracking them. They lead him to an underground parking garage. Will tells Lucia to stay in the car and quietly follows on foot. From a distance, he watches Carrick negotiating with buyers in the dimly lit garage. Suddenly, everything spirals when Zahir and his men storm in. They shout at Will to step back and surrender. Will yells back, demanding to know where his family is being held. The noise alerts Carrick. Without hesitation, she shoots the buyers. Chaos explodes. Agents open fire in every direction. In the confusion, the Gorman grabs the mysterious briefcase and makes a run for it in a car. But Will isn't done. He chases the vehicle on foot, catches up, and jumps in. A brutal fight breaks out inside the moving car as they struggle over the briefcase. In the middle of it, a Mossad agent intervenes and shoots the Gorman. At that exact moment, Lucia slams her car straight into theirs, causing a massive crash. Badly wounded, the Gorman looks at Will in disbelief, unable to accept that his end has come at Will's hands. Just then, Carrick screeches in and lunges for the briefcase lying on the ground. She opens fire on Will, forcing him to dive for cover. Grabbing the case, she speeds away. Gorman is left behind, dead. But Will and Lucia don't stop. They jump back into pursuit, triggering a high-speed chase. Carrick cuts through a park, trying to lose them. Will refuses to back down. When he gets close, she starts shooting again, forcing him to fall back for a moment. Carrick thinks she's escaped. She hasn't. Traffic traps her. She doesn't realize Will has spotted her. He slams his car straight into hers, sending it crashing into a nearby store. A crowd gathers in panic. Carrick stumbles out of the wreckage and starts firing wildly, not just at Will, but at innocent bystanders. With no choice, Will and Lucia hijack another car and take off. Carrick is still chasing them. The road turns into a battlefield. Cars swerve, metal collides, and finally, like something out of a movie, their vehicle flips. Carrick steps out of her wrecked car, the briefcase still in her hand, and walks toward Will and Lucia, who are barely able to move. Will struggles to lift his gun. Carrick laughs at him. She's about to pull the trigger. A single gunshot echoes. Through the chaos, Zahir and his team arrive. They move fast, securing Will, Lucia, and the briefcase, pulling them out alive. After everything, Zahir takes Will to see his family, the same family he feared he had lost forever. On the way, Zahir admits something surprising. Martin may have lived a secret life, but seeing Will's courage and strength today, he knows Martin would have been proud of his son. Moments later, through tears and tight embraces, the broken family is reunited. It feels like a miracle. They visit Lucia at the hospital. Lori and Josh warmly welcome her, grateful for everything she did. But the peace doesn't last long. A CIA official approaches Will and hands him a passport his way back home, safe and clean. Still, one question lingers in Will's mind. What was inside the briefcase? The official doesn't give a direct answer. Instead, he implies that if Will truly wants to know, he'll have to go deeper with the CIA. Will refuses. He's done with secrets, lies, and hidden wars. After risking everything, he's finally saved his family from the CIA, from Zahir, from the dangerous world that took his father.